Hello, my name is Joyce Garczynski. I'm the Assistant University Librarian for Development and Communications at Towson University's Albert S. Cook Library. And welcome to my lightning talk, How to Manage When There's No One Left to Manage. There's a lot of instability right now in the U.S. workforce. Resignations are at a higher point than any time this century. And a 2021 Society for Human Resource Management survey found that 93% of executives report having open positions in the last 6 months. 84% of executives agree that openings are going unfilled for longer. And 41% of U.S. workers are actively looking or are planning to look for another job. Also, according to another 2021 study, lower paid and frontline employees are the ones who are most likely to want to leave their jobs. It's likely that the Great Resignation is impacting libraries too, although I haven't seen specific data for academic libraries. There are other studies that suggest that the Great Resignation is impacting academic libraries. A Pew Research study says that the top 2 reasons that workers give for leaving their jobs are that the pay is too low and that there is no chance for advancement. These are both issues that have plagued academic library work, so it wouldn't be surprising if academic libraries have been hit hard by the Great Resignation. Ultimately, I'm guessing that a lot of academic library middle managers are in the same situation as myself. When their supervisees resign, they are left filling the gaps in their department, often for long periods of time. So here's my story. I'm a middle manager at my library, and I've been at my library for almost 13 years. I started off as a subject specialist librarian and was then promoted. I became a manager in 2016, but I was a department of 1 at that time. Then, in 2019, we began to hire. We hired an assessment librarian in 2019, but she left to follow her spouse to another job in July 2020. We also hired an outreach librarian in fall 2019, but she left in June 2021 to be closer to family. So come July 2021, I was back to being a department of 1. And we also had no prospect of hiring anytime soon because of the Great Resignation and because of the pandemic. So I was left doing 3 jobs: my communications and fundraising position, assessment, as well as library outreach and programming. So how did I manage? Well, facing the prospect of doing 3 jobs at once, I first went to my boss and asked her for help in determining what could be offloaded. Honestly, there wasn't very much, because everyone was so overwhelmed. So then what I did was I announced at an all-staff meeting and sent an email to the library letting everyone know what responsibilities I would be covering and when I'd be picking them up. And I ended that communication by asking for patience and understanding, especially if it took me longer to get back to my colleagues about something that they had talked to me about. I also shared this on social media too, and I'm so glad that I did, because several people across my university reached out to me and said that they were in the same boat. In fact, one of them even joked that we should form a support group for people working multiple jobs, and I said, but when would we find time to meet? We're all so busy. And so we all laughed about it together. And I think this brought to light that a lot of people are going through this right now. And I think we all felt that by commiserating together, we felt seen, at least by one another. I also prioritized and took scheduling very carefully. One day I was apologizing to my boss for not getting to a task that she had given me, and she said to me that it's okay to push back deadlines, and if I didn't get to something, even if it was for her, it couldn't have been that important anyway. So I'm working on taking this to heart and being easier on myself. But I also want to minimize the number of tasks that I miss. I found that when I start to feel overwhelmed, I create a list of tasks with their due dates and how much time I'm going to need to complete each task. Then I schedule time on my calendar to work on those tasks. I always make sure to overestimate how much time I'll need because things seem to always take longer than I anticipate. You always get that email that you have to respond to right away, so it's important to overestimate. So all that remained of my department were 2 student workers who are part of our library student leadership training program, and I leaned heavily on those students and gave them more responsibility than I normally would because I had to. I had no other choice. For example, I challenged our student leaders to develop and launch our events from beginning to end. I gave them examples of what we did before that was similar, and they asked questions. But they were the ones who made the decisions about what programming would be, and they took ownership of it. We had frequent check-ins, and I made sure to prioritize answering their questions. But they were empowered, and the results came out wonderfully. And it also took something off my plate. I have tried not to be so hard on myself for missed deadlines and emails, but it's really challenging. I try to remain focused on what my top priorities are and the top priorities for my library, and that's what I make sure I do first. I also want to focus on self-care. We had a self-care seminar at our library, and the leader said that we shouldn't feel bad about binging on Netflix. And I have to say that I tried that in order to take care of myself. I tried playing video games on my phone, but I found that only made me feel worse. Instead, I found the only thing that made me feel less stressed was to put my phone down, resist the urge to check email between certain periods of the evening where I took time off, eat healthy, and to get at least 6 hours of sleep a night. Quick fixes just didn't work for me and only made me feel worse. Doing 3 jobs isn't a situation I would wish on anyone, but it's helpful to remind myself that I'm not alone in this. There are lots of people in academic librarianship and outside who are working more than 1 job. I think I've managed as best I can by communicating sideways, prioritizing scheduling, leaning on students, and being authentically kind to myself. We're hiring again, so I see a light at the end of the tunnel. But I know I still have some more reflecting to do in order to help me heal, learn, and grow from this experience. Thank you for attending my lightning talk, and I look forward to talking with you soon. And here are my references.